That is a science. That's why we call it Beerat Vigyan. We also know it by the term Beerat Vigyan Darpan because it is the mirror that reflects the cosmos. It is the science of the cosmos and creation. So what we know in this Beerat session is the process of creation, the intention behind the creation, and the process to get back to how it all started in the first place. So the term Beerat is not basically a term that Pranami introduced. The concept of Beerat had actually existed in the past. If we look into Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, that is known to be as Vishwarup Darshan Yoga, it is where Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, in the great battlefield of Kurukshetra, in the war of Mahabharata, as we all know, if you should be familiar with that, Krishna is on the side of the Pandavas, he's fighting for the Pandavas, he's guiding them. It is where Arjuna has initially hesitation to fight against his Kaurava brothers and those fighting on behalf of Kauravas, including Bhishma Pitamaha, his teacher Dronacharya, Kulguru Kripacharya, and all those fighting on behalf of the Kauravas. So he initially has hesitation, although before the war even began, before he got to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he's all excited. But once he gets there, all of a sudden, a sense of thoughts flow through his mind, and he realizes that he won't be able to fight off his own people to get what he rightfully deserved, or what Pandavas rightfully deserved. So Sri Krishna is giving this divine wisdom to Arjuna that is compiled in 700 verses that we know by the holy book of Bhagavad Gita. And it has 18 chapters. On the 17th chapter, as Lord Sri Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that he has a divine, opulent, cosmic form, then Arjuna asked Sri Krishna to show him that divine form. If we go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse number 4, that is where Arjuna actually asked Sri Krishna, O Lord of all mystic powers, if you think I'm strong enough to behold it, then kindly reveal that imperishable cosmic form to me. Manyasya yedi tachakyam maya destumiti prabho yogeshwara tato me tvam darshayatmanam apyayam. So it is where Arjuna desires to see the cosmic form of Sri Krishna. So if you look into the origination of the term Beerat or Beerat Swarupam, if you see on the screen on the left side, this is the cosmic form of Sri Krishna that Sri Krishna reveals to Arjuna. He is bowing down to Sri Krishna, and if you look at the picture on its own, you see all the deities included in that cosmic form of Sri Krishna. So on Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, verse number 7, what Sri Krishna says is, behold now, Arjuna, the entire universe with everything moving and non-moving assembled together in my universal form. Whatever you wish to see, absorb it all within this universal form. So all the living and non-living beings, all the sentient and non-sentient beings are assembled in the universal form of Sri Krishna. So this is a Virat Swarupa. Virat technically means gigantic, something huge, humongous, big. That is what Virat is. And when Sri Krishna displayed his cosmic universal form, people began to know it by the term Virat Swarupa. So on 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the description, as we already said, chapter 11 is Vishwarup Darshan Yoga. It is the yoga. It is the chapter where Arjuna has the divine vision of the universal form, or Virat Swarupa of Sri Krishna. So what Arjuna sees in that Virat Swarupa is that in Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verse number 10 and 11 it says, in that cosmic form Arjuna saw. So Sanjay is explaining what is happening in the battle of Kurukshetra to the king of the dynasty known as Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra is narrated what is happening in Kurukshetra by Sanjay, who has that divine vision. Being in the palace, he can see what is happening in the battlefield, and he explains as such that Arjuna saw unlimited faces and eyes, decorated with many celestial ornaments and wielding many kinds of divine weapons. He wore many garlands on his body and was anointed with many sweet-smelling heavenly fragrances. He revealed himself as a wonderful and infinite Lord whose face is everywhere. Like I said, if you see in this picture, you see a lot of deities. So this is Lord Narayana, Lord Vishnu, or Sri Krishna. You can call him by all different names. This is Lord Shiva on the side. You see Ganesha, and there are so many other gods and goddesses assembled together in this divine cosmic form of Sri Krishna. This is called the Virat Swarupa. So the concept of Virat, as we all know, came from Bhagavad Gita. So let me go forward. So according to the Vedic scriptures for understanding, so there are so many Vedic scriptures, as you all may know. 4 Vedas, 4 sub-Vedas, 108 Upanishads. And there are so many Puranas and so many Stutis and so many Shrutis. There are so many scriptures in Vedic philosophy. And in such understanding, Virat refers to as the gigantic cosmos, or the divine personality that incorporates the 14 planetary systems that we know by the term of 14 lokas. So in this chapter 11, what Arjuna sees and what is revealed to him, and how eventually Arjuna gets terrified by this divine vision of Sri Krishna is explained. So if you ever get a chance, go through Bhagavad Gita chapter 11. That is where you understand the concept of Virat in according to the Vedic scriptures and Vedic understanding. So if you look into this picture, you see the Virat Swarup. It is a Virat Purusha. If you look here, I don't know if you can see the cursor moving. This is called Bhurloka. This is the earth. This is the planet. This is also called the Mrityulok. This is where we currently are. There are 7 ethereal worlds: Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. These are the ethereal worlds, or hellish planets, and underneath that is actually the real hell, according to the Vedic scriptures, as we call them Narka. That is where those having more sins than virtues would be punished. The explanation of 84 such ponds where those souls that incurred sins would be punished and purified are explained. And beyond this lok, there are 6 higher lokas called Bhuvar Loka, Swarga Loka, Mahar Loka, Janalok, Tapalok, and Satalok. So these 14 lokas are compared to the 14 limbs 14 organs or 14 limbs of this cosmic being, or the Virat Purusha. So this is a generic understanding of Virat. We'll explain in greater details of all these locals, all these planetary systems, what is there in Atal, what is there in Vital, what is there in Sutal, what is there in Swargalok, heavenly planets. We'll discuss all of that as we go along in this Virat discourse. So, Purusha Suktam in Rig Veda 1090, that is where the process of creation is explained a little bit in a short detail, where it is stated that the moon was born from his mind. When we are saying his, we are referring to the cosmic Purusha or the Virat Purusha. The sun was born from his eyes. Indra and Agni were born from his mouth, and Vayu, wind, was born from his breath. His navel became the Antariksha, the immediate space between heaven and earth. His head sustained the heaven. From his feet, the earth was sustained. From his ears, the directions were sustained. In this manner, all the worlds were regulated by him. The Deva, Virat, in that yajna, the sacrifice of creation, bound the infinite expanse of Purusha as infinite living beings. So what it explains is the Virat Purusha sustaining everything that exists in this world. Creation of these divine deities, divine beings that sustain what we call the universe. So this is Virat according to Vedic scriptures and Vedic understanding, and the concept of Virat is explained in other scriptures as well, such as Vishnu Puran and other scriptures, including Bhagavad Gita that we referred to earlier. So this is Virat according to the Vedic scriptures. So continuing on to that, the cosmic being, Lord Narayana, to many, he is the Lord Supreme, because everything emanates from him, everything is created from him. He is the creator of this world. So to many, I would say most of the Hindus, Narayan is the Lord Supreme. He is the cosmic Purusha. He is the Virat Purusha. And when I say Narayana, Lord Vishnu, and Sri Krishna, that unravel the divine teachings of Bhagavad Gita, are the same divine being in three different divine forms. So don't be confused when we say Narayana, Lord Vishnu, or Sri Krishna. So in Tartamya understanding, don't get confused by Sri Krishna revealing Bhagavad Gita versus Sri Krishna, the form of Sri Radha, right? So we have three distinct leelas, or three distinct forms of Sri Krishna that we understand by the term of Sri Krishna's Tridha Leela. So don't get confused as yet. We'll get to that later on. But this cosmic being, Lord Narayana, he manifests in different forms as a personal God. And for a lot of people, he is impersonal, he is transcendent, he cannot be viewed, he cannot be understood, he cannot be grasped by our senses. So for a lot of people, this cosmic being is actually formless, a nirakar, but whenever he needed, he can take a particular form and reveal to the world. So as we all saw in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna revealing the divine cosmic form, universal form of himself to Arjuna, and on that term, Virat came along, the concept of Virat came along. So in Vedic scriptures, according to the Vedic scriptures and Vedic understanding again, the Virat, the concept of Virat or the creation, does not transcend beyond the perishable realm that we know by the term Char Brahmanda or Char Purusha. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, Purushottam Yoga, where Sri Krishna reveals the transcendent understanding of the Lord Supreme, Purushottam Yoga, that is where he reveals the three divine beings. One, Kshara Purusha, the other one is Akshara Purusha, and the third one is Uttama Purusha. Three cosmic beings are explained in that chapter, Purushottam Yoga, chapter 15, verse number 17. Dvabhimo Purusho Loke, Chara Sakshara Yevacha, Chara Sarvani Bhutani, Kutasto Akshara Uttate, Uttamaha Purushastu Anya, Paramatmiti Udaritaha. So we'll explain that as we move on to Sri Krishna's Trida Lila, but for your understanding here in this section, all we are saying is the concept of Beerat, the concept of creation, the concept of Lord Supreme to Vedic scriptures and understanding do not transcend beyond the perishable realm. So we'll show you that picture, what part of it is perishable realm and what is beyond that. We, in Pranami's terminology, the perishable realm is known as Hadda. Imperishable is called Behadda, and beyond Behadda is the realm of the Lord Supreme or Paramdham, where we have Raji Maharaj, Paramdham, and that is where Akshardham is located, where the creator of infinite number of universes reside, known as Akshar Brahma. So we'll get into that detail later on. So according to Beerat, or the Vedic scriptures, the understandings of Vedas, the 14 lokas are known as the 14 limbs of Beerat Purusha. As we come back to this picture again, so all these 14 lokas are 14 limbs of this cosmic Purusha, right? So that is the Vedic understanding. And according to the Vedic understanding, as you might know, there are three worlds. One is the upper world, the next is the middle world, and the third one is the lower world. So these 14 worlds are divided into three worlds. Says 6 heavenly worlds, including Pitrilok, Swargalok, Maharlok, Janalok, Kapalok, Satalok. We'll explain that in greater detail. Those already familiar with the Vedic terminologies and Vedic scriptures would not have any hard time understanding that. But for those who are not familiar with it, probably specifically Sarah, you would be a little overwhelming at first, because these terms are probably not that you have familiarized yourself with. But as we explain in greater details, you'll grasp it. So these three worlds, upper world, middle world, and 7 ethereal worlds, are the part of the cosmic Purusha. And according to Vedic scriptures and Vedic understanding, once again, there is one universe in existence. There are not multiple universes. One universe in existence. And Lord Narayana is the Lord of all, is the God of gods. So this is the Vedic understanding. Now, the term Beerat is used by Mahamati Prannaji as well. The term Beerat is revealed to Sundar Sat by Sadguru Sri Devachandraji Maharaj and Prannaji Maharaj. So the term means much more to Sadguru and Prannaji than the Vedic scriptures. So how does Tartamya explain Beerat is what we cover next. So according to Tartamya, although these verses are from the Vedic scriptures, it is not understood by many, and they do not believe it being true. So according to Tartamya, there are multiple universes in existence. And for many, the Trinity in Hinduism, Lord Brahmaji, the creator, Lord Vishnu, the sustainer, and Lord Shiva, Lord Mahesha also it is synonymous. You can call him Lord Shiva or Lord Mahesha. Lord Shiva, the destroyer. So they sustain these 14 lokas. And for a lot of people, these are one in three distinct forms. And for others, there are three distinct divine beings. There are different traditions with them. The traditions, the sects that follow Lord Vishnu are known as Vaishnava traditions. You might already be aware of that. If you look into International Society for Krishna Consciousness, started or initiated by Prabhupada, that is one of the Vaishnava traditions. We can say Radhe Radhe, initiated by Kripaluji Maharaj, is also one of the Vaishnava traditions. There are Madhavacharya traditions, Vallabhacharya traditions. There are so many Vaishnava traditions that believe Lord Vishnu or Krishna being the supreme personality or supreme being or supreme God. You can call that personality by different names, but there are different Vaishnava traditions. And also, there are those who believe Lord Shiva being the most powerful and the Lord Supreme. And there are traditions, Saiva tradition, that are based on the understanding that Lord Shiva is the supreme being. So for many Vedic followers, Lord Brahmaji, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva in one, or Lord Vishnu himself or Lord Shiva are the Lord Supreme, or in particular. So according to Tartam, according to Mahamati Prannaji, Sankhya Chetra Jasamasti na Vishwanam Kadachanah Brahma Vishnu Sivadinam Tatha Sankhya Vidyate. According to Devi Bhagavad, one of the Puranas, it explains that it could be that the dust particles of this world can be counted. Meaning, it could be comparable to the number of existence, number of universes in existence. It could be, which is not possible, which is never possible, but comparable to the number of universes in existence, it could probably be counted, which is not possible yet. However, the number of universes in existence cannot be counted, as they are infinite in numbers. Similarly, the number of creator, Lord Brahma, nourisher, Lord Vishnu, and destroyer, Lord Shiva, is uncountable, and they are created and annihilated in infinite numbers in the infinite void known as Mahashunya. So Mahamati Prannaji's understanding of Beerat is completely different than the Vedic understanding. Like I said, for the people that follow the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, nothing exists beyond those 14 lokas. 7 heavenly worlds and 7 eternal worlds. Nothing exists beyond that. But for Mahamati Prannaji, there are infinite number my apologies. I kept talking, but I think my internet got disconnected. So I was explaining the concept of Beerat according to Mahamati Prannaji, and I can see S.K. Sarmaji is here. He is the president of Sri Krishna Pranami Seva Samiti. We would hear from him in a minute. Thank you for joining. Let me continue. You are not seeing my screen, are you? Okay, let me share my screen again. So let me know once the screen is visible. I was explaining that the concept of Beerat, according to Mahamati Pranaji, is a little different, and it covers a vast expanse than what Vedas explain in the Vedic scriptures. So, Mahamati Pranaji, as I was explaining, these are not the teachings of Mahamati Pranaji, but we see them in the Vedic scriptures, and it could only be understood by the teachings of Mahamati Pranaji. So according to Mahamati Pranaji's understanding, there are infinite number of universes in existence. So are Lord Brahmaji, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, that the number of their existence is not even counted. So Yoga Vasishtha Utpatti Prakarana is one of the other scriptures, is where we see the concept of Beerat differentiating between Tartam and the Vedic scriptures. It is explained there that as the dust particles are seen roaming around the window as the sunlight passes through the window, infinite number of universes are seen to be floating around the gigantic cosmos known as Paramakas. So Mahamati Pranaji's understanding of Beerat is different than that of the Vedic understanding. Like I already said, Beerat, according to Vedic scriptures and understanding, is the cosmic Purusha who incorporates the 14 planetary systems within it. As we see the picture of Virat Swarupa of Sri Krishna, all the deities, all the gods and goddesses, all the living and non-living, all the sentient and non-sentient being incorporated within that universal form of Sri Krishna. Mahamati Pranaji's Beerat includes infinite number of universes, infinite number of Lord Vishnu, infinite number of Lord Narayana in existence. So it is way vast. It is way bigger, way gigantic than the Vedic understanding. Now, if we go deeper into Beerat, we understand that according to the Vedic scriptures, the creator is Lord Brahmaji, who creates 14 lokas. He is the creator of all living and non-living beings in this world, and he is the creator. But according to the Tartamya understanding, according to understanding of Mahamati Pranaji, although I'm referring these verses from Vedic scriptures, these understandings are not prevalent among the Vedic scriptures and Vedic scholars. Vedic scholars do not give the references of these verses. So unlike the Vedic understanding, according to Tartam, the creator of this world and everything in existence is not Lord Brahmaji, it is the Akshara Brahma. Akshara meaning something that does not perish, something that is not destroyed, something that is eternal. So unlike the Vedic understanding, the creator is not Lord Brahmaji, but rather is Akshara Brahma. And the process of creation is explained in Maheshwar Tantra, Patal 1, that is chapter number 1, verse number 45, where Lord Mahesha explains who Akshara Brahma is. So let me give you a little bit background about Maheshwar Tantra. So once Lord Mahesha, Lord Shiva, the destroyer, had a misconception that he thought he was the Lord Supreme. So In that thought process, he gets into a deeper state of meditation, and he begins meditating, and 5,000 yugas passed by, and a divine revelation came to him through Ishwara. And that revelation to Ishwara actually came from Sadasiva. We will explain who Sadasiva is, who Ishwara is in the coming days. So according to that understanding, that divine understanding, he compiles what he understands, and the world finds it to be Maheshwar Tantra. It is also known to be as Agam Bani for many, because it unravels something that could not be explained earlier. Agam is something that cannot be understood. So this is the understanding that Lord Mahesha shares with his divine partner, Lord Goddess Parvati, and he explains to her that God, meaning Akshara Brahma, created this universe with the union between Kal. Kal is nothing but time, and Maya, the cosmic illusion or attachment. And he is the creator of millions of universes. We can say by millions we mean infinite. He just tried to put it in numbers. Millions of universes like this. And the creator is none other than Akshara Brahma, the infallible one. Kala Mayam Sayogena Brahmanda Srijat Prabhu Koti Brahmanda Lakshanamsa Nirmata Aksharo Vibhu. This is where Bhagavan Mahesh, Lord Mahesha explains that the creator is not Lord Brahmaji, as Hindus would understand, the Vedic scholars would understand, but rather is the Akshara Brahma, the infallible Brahma. So, what does he do? What role does he play in this cosmos? Akshara Brahma, infallible Brahma. According to Maheshwar Tantra, again in the next verse, Lord Mahesha explains to Parvati, Goddess Parvati, his divine partner, Na takshecha na kartabya nirguna prakriti tathapi everything in existence. As we said, he does not have any desires or responsibilities. He is nirguna, and he is beyond prakriti. And despite that, despite having no desires and responsibilities, in his playful acts, just like a child, what he does is he creates millions of universes and subsequently destroys them. So the creation of multitudes of these universes and subsequent annihilation of them is a concept that is new to the Vedic scholars and Vedic understanding. It is peculiar. It is specific to the understanding of Tartamya. But how do we understand that? So what happens is in our imagination. Let's give a practical example of it. In our imagination, right? Let me say, after this session is over, I'm going to a supermarket. I'm going to Walmart and buying some vegetables. When I'm uttering these words, my mind is already there in Walmart. I'm buying some stuff, vegetables and other grocery items. So our universe is created in my imagination. Walmart is created in my imagination. So, and when I come back to this session again, the imagination is already over. What happens is when Akshara Brahma imagines something, it turns into reality. It comes into existence. So in his imagination, what he does is he imagines the existence of these universes and they come into existence. Just like Quran explains when Allah, Khuda says kunna, meaning be it, it comes into existence. Akshara Brahma, when he imagines something, in his imagination, it turns into reality. So when he is out of that imagination, what happens is that created imaginary world is destroyed. So just like our imaginations, we think about so many things in a day, probably millions of things in a day. They are in our imagination. When I think about Walmart, when I think about going out to buy some grocery, my mind is already there. In my imagination, a form of me is already there buying groceries. The world is there, although it is imaginary, but comparable to that, Akshara Brahma, when he imagines something, it comes into existence. That's the distinction. Yet, you can relate to that based on our experience, based on our imagination. So, what Akshara Brahma does, although he does not have any responsibilities, he does not have any desires, just like a child, he creates and annihilates infinite numbers of universes. So, Tartamya understanding, according to the teachings of Mahamati Prannaji, Beerat is much bigger, much more gigantic than the understanding of Vedic scriptures. So, for Mahamati Prannaji, there are infinite number of Lord Vishnu, infinite number of Lord Mahesha, infinite number of Narayana, infinite number of this cosmic universe that we call Char Brahmanda. There are infinite number of them in subsequent existence. So that is the distinction. And as we go along, we would explain them in greater detail. So I'm just showing the picture here. This is Paramdham. This is where we reside. If you see the picture here, this is Ranga Mahal. This is Paramdham. Ranga meaning blissful. Mahal is a building. This is where Raji Maharaj and we 12,000 consorts reside in utter bliss, perfect bliss, in this state of Satchidananda. If you see, this is Yamuna River. These are the different aspects of Paramdham. If you see a yellow building on the right corner, that is what is it? Pukharaj Pahad, and we'll explain to you in greater detail what exists in Paramdham. So let me show you another picture here before we go past that. So according to the Vedic scriptures, if you see Chair Purusha, the picture on the right, these are the 14 lokas. This is what the Vedic understanding covers. And those getting deeper into Vedic scriptures, they go up to this picture. This is Char Purusha, fallible cosmic being. From him, all of this came into existence. This is Narayana, this is Sesh Narayana, and this is where Lord Vishnu resides. This is Sataloka. So, Yame Mahavishnu Mana, Manati Triguna, Tathi Thirachara Sabha Utpanna, is Mahamati Prannaji explains the process of creation from Lord Narayana to Sesh Narayana to three cosmic beings, Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and the subsequent creation of 8.4 million living beings, living entities here in this world. But Mahamati Prannaji's Beerat explains much higher than this, explains in greater details of something that exists beyond this Char Purusha. He goes to Akshara Purusha. This is Jyoti Swarupa. This is where the souls for all the living and non-living entities are dispersed. The soul inside us comes from Jyoti Swarupa. We'll explain that in greater details. These are the mind metrics of Akshara Brahma. This is the mind. This is the intellect. This is the previous one is Abhyakrit Brahma. We'll explain that in greater details as we go along. This is Sablik, this is Keval, this is Sat Swarup. These are the four mind metrics of Akshara Brahma. And beyond Akshara Brahma resides the Uttama Purusha. Uttamaha Purushastu Anya Paramatma Udarita. The Uttama Purusha is only known to be as the Lord Supreme, as Bhagavad Gita says in chapter 15, verse number 17 and 18. So Mahamati Pranaji's explanation of Virat runs much deeper, much better than the Vedic understanding. So what Virat covers, let me take another couple of minutes. So what Virat does, Virat is the grandest description of this universe and beyond. Virat explains what existed before the creation of this universe. Because this is a created world and it was created at a particular time. So there is something that existed before that, beyond that. So what it is that existed beyond this universe or before this universe was created is the question that Virat answers every question that a spiritual aspirant may have. Why we came to this world, why there's so much suffering in this world, why does not God answer my prayers, why the Satchidananda Paramatma created a world completely opposite of what attributes we refer to him by. Revelation of Satchidananda, truth, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute Paramatma, creating universe full of suffering and misery. Because a lot of people ask questions to why God created a world full of misery. Why does not God answer our prayers? If God existed, why God allows suffering in this world? These are the questions that everyone asks. So Virat answers those questions. Reason behind creation. So there must be a reason why this world came into existence. As Mahamati Pranaji says, Bina karana karajana hoy, so kahuyake karana doy, because nothing happens without a reason. So what is the reason behind creation? If we go to Bible, if we go to Quran, there is no revelation to why God created this world. It must be God. He must have some reasons. According to Quran, according to Bible, there is no description to why he created this. So Mahamati Pranaji's Beerat explains the particular reasons to why creation took place. And Beerat explains the process of creation, how the world was created, the explosion, the huge explosion that the science knows as Big Bang. The similar identical concept is found in Mahamati Pranaji's understanding of Beerat. Beerat also explains the process of our descent to the world, the coming of the people of spirit according to Christianity, the movement according to Quran, Mukta Atma according to Vedic scriptures, and the descent of Brahma Srishti according to Mahamati Pranaji's Tartamya philosophy. Wow, why and how we descend to this world is something that Beerat answers. How we can find Lord Supreme or eternal salvation, moksha. A lot of people, a lot of followers of different faiths ask this question: what is the best path to salvation or moksha? The concept of deluge and dream, the concept of angels and deities, the concept of monotheism, polytheism, whether Hinduism is a monotheist religion or polytheist religion, the concept of that great ambiguity would be explained in Beerat. The ideas on soul, its origin and its eternality, as in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Sri Krishna explains that a soul cannot be killed, a soul cannot be destroyed, it's not dissolved in water, the soul is eternal. As we understand Beerat, we would understand that the soul that Sri Krishna refers to is not actually eternal. It is not the eternal soul. The soul that he talks about is the next concept, the concept of super soul, that is Paratma. So we would understand Atma, Paratma, and Paramatma, soul, super soul, and the supreme soul. So we'll understand the distinction between the three. We'll understand the relationship between karma and salvation. We will understand the ideals of reincarnation. We'll compare that to the Vedic and Abrahamic understandings. We'll look into some of the references of Quran and Bible in understanding the concept of reincarnation. And also, we'll understand the three distinct leelas or sports of Lord Sri Krishna. And as we all know, the understanding of Mahamati Pranaji is compiled in Tartam Sagar. It has 14 books. The divine compilation is known as Holy Tartam Sagar. It has 18,758 verses in many languages: Gujarati, Hindi, Sindhi, Arabic, and Urdu. And it has the revelation of both Vedic scriptures and Semitic scriptures, including the Bible and the Quran, and also has the description of Lord's abode in form. It consists of 14 books: Ras, Prakash, Ritu, Kalas, Sananda, Kirantam, Kulasa, Kilvat, Parikrama, Sagar, Shingar, Sindhi, Marfat, and Kayamat Nama. They are comparable to some of the books. As we see, Prakash is the Psalms of David. It is compared to the book of Zabur. Kalas is comparable to the book of Torah. Sananda, the book of true knowledge, is comparable to Quran or Tirkan. These are the composites of Mahamati Pranaji's understanding. And beyond that, we have 4 other things: the Beerat, the thorough description from Patal to eternal abode of Lord Supreme with references from both Vedic and Semitic scriptures. It has the description of perishable, imperishable, and Aksharatit universes, or Aksharatit eternal beings. We already had a class, a session on Vitak. It took us about 4 months to finish that. It is a biography of our founder of Tartamya Vision and history of Sri Krishna Pranami faith. And 2 other concepts are found in Mahabhati Pranaji's teachings. The one is Vritti. The enumerated description of Lord's abode, Paramdham, is described in Vedic scriptures. It is described as Arsha Azim, Arsha Baka in Quran, and in Christianity is explained as Supreme Abode, but the description is found nowhere but the teachings of Mahamati Pranaji. And finally, last but not the least, it is Seva Puja. It is a detailed layout of serving the Lord Supreme, Sri Raji and Sri Syamaji, the prayers and services for Sundar Sats to follow through during the morning, Pratakalin, and evening, Sandhya Kalin. So these are 5 composites of Tartam, and these are the composites of Tartam, we would get into Beerat. So the questions that we listed earlier, those questions would be answered in these descriptions in this session of